Beach. How we doing, man?
Well, today, my dog's in a cone. I missed a parlay because George Pickens scored twice, but they were
Didn't count.
didn't count. But other than that, absolutely peachy. I'm doing good.
Yeah. Well, good to hear, man. Guys, for you, those of you who don't know us, we are Statletics. We love breaking down the big games, talking ball. We rely on our model projections heavily, some of the stats that go into it as well to break down these games. We try to get to as many games as we can. We don't cover them all, but you can find the projections on our Twitter account at Statletics_. You can see them on the screen right now as well. But yeah, so we got a couple games we're going to talk to you guys about in detail, and then try to get to some quick picks there at the end. So, BJ, first game of the week, just jumping in, Lions, Packers. This game is at Lambeau Field. This game is for the division, and there just seems like there's so much going into this game, even though we're halfway through the season, still a lot of ball to play. But for the NFC North, these two teams are basically at the top. The Bears have been making a push. The Vikings are making a push as well. But it's seemingly going to be, a rat race for this division. This is a huge game that affects all four teams in that division. Lions are beating the brakes off of people right now. Some of those wins are at home in the dome, but you can't ignore it. So they are red hot right now. Their offense is rolling. Their defense looks pretty good. They did lose Aiden Hutchinson a couple weeks ago. Now you flip it over to the Packers. They get the home nod this week. However, Jordan Love, questionable with a groin injury. Not sure what his status is going to be, but hopefully he can play. I would love to see these two teams play with, as much starters healthy as possible. But with that information, before I get into the model projection and the numbers, Beach, what's your thoughts about this game? If Jordan Love plays, let's operate under the assumption of Jordan Love plays, and then kind of give our thoughts if Malik Willis plays as well. But let's operate under that assumption first if Jordan Love plays. What's your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, well, I have some insider information because I, as a professional athlete, know what it's like to deal with a groin injury, and it sucks. So, and I didn't have 300-pound people trying to tackle me with it. Even if he does play, though, the Lions are firing on all cylinders. They can score in whatever way they want. They've got offensive linemen eligible, and they can do whatever they want. I honestly am going to lean towards Jordan Love not playing. They have the bye the week after. And so if Malik Willis comes out there, I think the Lions will win. He's managed it okay, but they're not the same without Jordan Love. And even with Jordan Love in there, he's going to be a little hobbled. So I do like the Lions to win this game, even though it's at Lambeau, to remain the king of the North. And what's the spread? 3.5?
Spread's 3.5 for the Lions right now. The model projections are sitting around Lions -4. So
I'm going to agree with Scarlett. I'm going to agree.
Okay. Yeah.
I like the Lions to cover that. I think that right now they are the hottest team in football, and they've been knocking kids out.
Yeah, they definitely agree with you there about being the hottest team in football. Going to Lambeau is no easy feat, no matter who the quarterback is. So I'll go ahead and start off with that. Statistically speaking, there are a couple things that stick out to me, specifically, like you mentioned, the red-hot Detroit offense. They are 4th overall in passing yards per game, 4th overall in rushing yards per game. Now, Green Bay, on the flip side, they're pretty good against the run. They're 8th overall in rushing yards per game allowed, only allowing 110 yards per game on the ground. But in the passing game, that's where you can really attack this team. Even though Jair Alexander's been on the field and healthy, they're still kind of hemorrhaging yards in the passing game. Detroit's offense, they're 4th overall in passing yards per game, averaging 275 yards per game, whereas the Green Bay defense, they're giving up close to that number as well. So now, this defense can be good. They have the pieces to be good, and some of the advanced units actually are a bit gray as well. They're 6th overall in EPA per play allowed, which is great. Green Bay defense, that is, but 26th overall in success rate allowed, and that kind of bodes not well against the Detroit Lions team, who is 3rd overall in success rate on the offensive side of the ball, and they can just grind you down, control the game, control the clock, and we expect Sonic and Knuckles, David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, to kind of have their way, albeit the strong rushing defense for the Packers. Not only that, but that rushing game, that rushing attack, paired with Ben Johnson's aggressive play calling, I think it's just going to open up the doors for this Detroit offense to attack the weak secondary over in Green Bay. Now, Green Bay's offense is really efficient both with Jordan Love and without. Malik Willis has actually been one of the more efficient quarterbacks when he's been in. Surprisingly, he's only been there for a couple games now. He was traded like week 2 of the season, week 1 maybe. But Green Bay offense, really, really strong nonetheless. Surprisingly, they've been a team that is actually phenomenal in the rushing game. They're averaging 167 yards on the ground. That's best for second in the league. However, Beach, the Detroit Lion defense, what they're best at, stopping the run. So 3rd overall in rushing yards per game allowed for the Detroit defense, only giving up 83 yards per game on the ground. I mean, that's going to be tough, especially for a 1-2 running duo in Malik Willis and Josh Jacobs. So it's kind of a very inopportune moment for Malik Willis to hop right back in the saddle because, he's best when the running game is turning out yards, when him and Josh Jacobs are utilizing the read option really well, it opens up the passing game. But given that this Detroit defense is so strong against the run, I think they're going to kind of clamp them up a little bit, in my personal opinion. Again, Lambeau is not an easy place to play, but I'm going to have to ride my projections and go with the Lions here, just given the scenario, given the pairing with this Detroit defense against this Green Bay offense.
Because of Malik Willis's passing limitedness, would you load the box, or would you not?
I would keep doing what I'm doing if I'm Detroit. I mean, obviously, teams, they game plan like specifically for other offenses. Of course, they're professionals. This is their job. They're the best to ever do it. So they're going to walk in there with a game plan specific to Green Bay, whether it's for Malik Willis or for Jordan Love. They're going to have a plan for both. Now, Malik Willis has actually shown to have excelled in the passing game over the past few weeks. I mean, look at the last plays and, the last few moments of the Jaguars game this week. He had a dot to Jayden Reed to kind of put the icing on the cake for that game. So I don't think you necessarily load up the box. I do think you tempt him into forcing them to win that game under Malik Willis's arm. I think you absolutely, step up. You try and do your thing. You stop the run, and I think you don't fully load the box, but I think you absolutely, forced them to win this game by making Malik Willis throw. And that's not to say he's a bad passer. He's shown progress, but if that was the Lions, that would be my game plan, given how much I trust my rush defense. So.
Last thing I'll say is I think this game is like Jared Goff's have a great year, like an insane year. He's throwing, I think, over 75%. Yeah,
MVP.
So this game's going to come down to him. I know he has the Lions have 13 dome games this year. Well, this is
14,
not.
I think, actually.
This is not, and it isn't Lambeau. I mean, it shouldn't. The weather shouldn't be crazy, but I mean, you never know. But if it is, and if Jared can't handle the crowd, then who knows? But I think it comes down. I think it comes down to that.
All right. Well, hey, it looks like we're both on the same side here, taking the chalk with the Lions. But I'm taking the Lions. I'm not confidently taking the Lions, but I think they come out there with a win, given the implications for the conference. But this game is going to be fun, and I think the Packers are going to come out swinging much harder than a lot of, the casual public is going to anticipate, especially if they are without Jordan Love. So that should be a fun one. A lot of conference, a lot of division implications on the line for that game, especially as they start converging on the end of the season and playoffs on the line. BJ, before we hop into the next game, guys, the show is brought to you by Not Beer, American sparkling water. It's never a bad time to have a Not Beer. Perfect football drink, perfect summer drink, perfect everything drink. It goes well with everything. You can mix it with whatever you want. And of course, you can have it outright on its own. There are links in the comments for the store locator if you live close by to a store that sells Not Beer. And of course, there's the Amazon link where you can just buy it and have it shipped directly to your house. Not Beer, American sparkling water. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe for us and drop your favorite picks. We appreciate that. Thank you so much. Don't want to spend too much time on that. So Rams go to Seattle to play the Seahawks. Seahawks just got gutted by the Bills, BJ. Not good. Not good scenes. Now, a lot of people who are casuals, who are red zone watchers, who only look at the box score are going to look at this game and be like, Seahawks are frauds. Bills are great. They're going to, end of the story. Now, not necessarily true. If you watch that game where Seattle played the Bills at home, you would have saw some missed opportunities. Now, of course, it is the Seahawks' fault, absolutely. However, if they clean up some of those, it's a whole different ballgame. And what I mean by that, talking about our first half of the game, Seahawks caused a turnover against Josh Allen. They picked him off. They got it in the red area. Seahawks offense was driving. Get him up to the goal line. 3rd and goal. Snapped right over Geno's head. Completely dead play. And they couldn't get a scoring play off. So that happened. Stuff like that happened, throughout the game. And it really prevented the Seahawks offense from really getting that momentum that they really needed. And I think that if those mistakes are cleaned up, which are very, very, easy mistakes to clean up, it's a whole different ballgame. And we could potentially be talking this week about the Seahawks either keeping it close and or maybe even winning that game. The Bills just capitalized on the Seahawks mistakes and then ran up the score when it got ugly late in that game. I'm pretty sure they had a last-minute touchdown off of a muffed punt return, so score isn't necessarily indicative of what the play was. So I just wanted to point that out. I'll get off my soapbox. That's what I saw from somebody who rewatched that game. Rams. Big news for the Rams. We saw Puka Nacua back on Thursday Night Football against the Vikings. After beating the Vikings last week and having a mini bye, they're coming in 3-5. This division is wide open. You think about, look at what the 49ers are doing. Look at what the Cardinals are doing. All of them are subtly around 500 right now. And so this is easily anybody's division in the NFC West. So I'll get off my soapbox. I've been talking a while. Before I give the numbers, the projections, whatever whatever have you, Beej, what's your thoughts about this game? Maybe not necessarily who you think is going to win, but what do you think is going to happen in this game? How do you expect the gameplay to go in this game?
Well, the first thing I'd say is I hope it's going to be fast.
Yeah.
I know from the Seahawks side it's going to be fast, and there's going to be a lot of plays from the Seattle side. Hopefully that means from the Rams side too. One thing that's huge is both teams are almost back to full strength, at least on the offensive side. For this game, I believe DK is going to be back, so they'll have their normal trio with Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet, and then you also didn't mention that Cooper Kupp was back in the game with Puka Nacua, and
True.
The Rams have all their guys back too. So I think this will come down to if Sean McVay lets it become this shootout type of game, because they can run the ball as well with Kyron. So
yeah,
the spread's 1, and it's like it could go either way. Really,
1.5. You've won 1.5, depending on whether you look at it. And you're absolutely right. Like, this game is up for the taking. So the model actually has Seahawks -1 comparative to where Vegas has Rams -1. Seahawks are at home, big home field advantage there. So there's two things that kind of counteract each other here that I'm looking at. So Seahawks get the home field advantage. If they clean up the mistakes, they're going to be a very, very tough team to beat at home. Now, what else am I looking at? I'm looking at the coaching staff. You have, McDonald, who's really he's a first-year head coach. He's been in the league, as an assistant, but first-year head coach. Ryan Grubbs, first-year coordinator. I think he was a coach in the league, and then he went back to college and then back to NFL. So he's been in the league before, but again, first big time play caller position for Grubbs, going against Sean McVay. We all know Sean McVay is one of the best to ever do it. Even though he's only been in the league for what seems like a couple of years, Sean McVay is brilliant. He's a veteran coach, and he's going to absolutely come with a game plan ready to go. He is sharp as all get out. So it's going to be interesting to see the coaching battle, the X's and O's, what kind of tacticals are both teams going to show up with in this game, and where those weaknesses and strengths are brought out for both teams. So that's another thing that I'm looking at too. And obviously the Rams get the nod there. But, again, if Seahawks clean up the mistakes, I think they could pull out this game. What's it going to take, Beach? It's going to take good offense. Okay, so the Rams defense has progressively gotten better. It's not great. They are still bottom of the league in EPA and success rate. Now they've climbed up 2 spots where at one point they were dead last in both of those. They're now only 30th in the league, but they're getting there. Okay, so Seattle offense, we all know they are very, very solid. They're kind of middle of the pack, statistically speaking, on the advanced metrics. If we look at their EPA and success rate, they're 21st overall in EPA per play, 12th overall in success rate on the offensive side of the ball. So I think if they get DK Metcalf back, I think they can absolutely exploit this Rams defense that is getting better but still struggling in the league. But it'll be a question of can the Seahawks limit the mistakes, and can the defense hold off this Rams offense that is fully capable, fully back from injury, and ready to fire? What do you think?
I like to see what Matt McDonald can do, like scheme up against McVay on the defensive side, because he's a great defensive mind. It seems like everyone comes from the Sean McVay tree in the NFL. That's what it seems like, and so it's out there, a lot of tape on it, and I'd be interested to see what he has drawn up. I hope there's no defense in this game, and I think Seattle is a home divisional dog. Is that right?
Seattle is the home divisional dog, and that's the beach signal.
You know what that means. I'll take Seattle to cover the 1.5 at home. I hope there's a lot of points, and that's all I hope for.
Yep. No, I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. I think this game is going to come down to the wire. I think a lot of people will be pleasantly surprised by, for those of you who only watch Red Zone, like I said, or only look at the box score, you saw what happened to the Seahawks last week. That's not indicative. I think this game is going to be much, much closer than that. However, give me the Rams, give me McVay on the crunch with Puka, Cooper Kupp, Kyron Williams to come in there and win in a close one, potentially even a last-minute field goal to end regulation. So it's going to be a fun one, though. That is the game that I'm like sneaky most excited for, because I really do think that has the chance to be the highest scoring game on the slate. So
definitely.
Okay, Beach. Hey, let's pivot real quick. We'll go to a non-divisional game, non-conference game. Bucs go to Kansas City and play the Chiefs. Now, the reason I have this on the slate, it's a widespread margin, but I actually think that the Bucs could still give the Chiefs a run for their money. I think the Chiefs, they're undefeated. Their defense is playing lights out football. Their offense is kind of putting it together. They just traded for DeAndre Hopkins. Xavier Worthy is back in the mix. Travis Kelce is coming off of a season best game last week. But part of me thinks the Bucs can actually put some pressure on the Chiefs. However, it is a primetime game at Arrowhead, so that is why the spread is a little bit larger than one may perceive. It is +9 for the Bucs who travel into Arrowhead. Before I get into any of the numbers or anything, Beach, what's your thoughts on this game? Do you think Bucs, without the weapons on the perimeter, with the young guys and McMillan and Palmer, can make a push against this really strong Chiefs defense, or do you think it's going to get ugly?
Yeah, my initial thought is it'll be really difficult for the Bucs to run the ball against the Chiefs. I'm thinking under 100 total rushing yards maybe for the whole game. And then on the other side of that, I don't think people can jump the gun too much on the box score of these young guys that had to step in for Mike Evans and Chris Godwin this last week. I think that it's going to, if Cade Otton is going to continue to be a threat. We'll see if Nick Bolton can handle him, which he probably can, but we'll see.
I was about to say, that guy's a stud.
Yeah. Well, everything I'm saying is going to say that the Bucs have like no shot, but
yeah.
the Chiefs, they're 7-0. They're only undefeated team. They haven't done anything extremely exceptional, and no team goes undefeated the whole season. I think the spread's too high. I love these high spreads, and I I'm gonna take the Bucs to cover that 8.5 in prime time. You know, crazy things happen on Monday nights. Crazy things happen.
Yeah, and you're right. And I'm gonna lean in the fact that I do think something crazy is gonna happen. I think the Bucs are gonna win outright in Arrowhead against the
They could.
Chiefs. I do think. Now, somebody may clip this and think I'm the biggest idiot in the world, especially after the Chiefs if they ended up beating the brakes off the Bucs. The Bucs defense is not good. I'll just put it plain and simple. They're down a couple of corners, but so sneakily, one of the better offenses that Kansas City will have faced up until this point. And Baker Mayfield still continues to play really good football. He had a few mistakes last week, but I still think that's a timing, that's a rhythm thing with his young wide receivers. He doesn't have Godwin or Evans out there. He still has Kadon out there, to your point. But I think as these guys continue to play more and more together and get their timing down, Baker will elevate themselves and that team, that offense, into playing good football. And I think we see that here because Tampa Bay is 7th overall in EPA per play on the offense side of the ball, 6th overall in success rate. Now, Kansas City defense, 10th in EPA per play allowed, 12th overall in success rate allowed. So top 10, top 12 defense in those advanced metrics. But you can still get some sort of offense going once you gain momentum. We've seen, if the Raiders can score on you and find success, anybody can eventually do that. And it's going to be a tough uphill battle. Baker Mayfield's going to have to be perfect, but I think in prime time, he's going to want to show the world what he's got, and I think he's going to take it to the Chiefs, and it's going to be a close one. I know I said the Bucs win, but I think the Bucs cover. I'm not fully confident that they win by any means, but Bucs cover the +9. I really like that in a game where the Bucs are surprisingly playing the better offense right now. So it's gonna be a fun one.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, man. Moving through these quick. The next one I had Cowboys at Falcons. So for those of you who know me, I am biased to the Falcons. One of the reasons I picked this game. They're a good team now. They're a good team. They're 5-3. They're good. So we get to talk about them finally. The Cowboys, though, are not so good. It's a bad time to be a Cowboys fan. They are 3-4 right now. They really, really, really need to start winning, especially in a division where a division that has the Commanders and the Eagles, who are seemingly, Commanders are red hot. The Eagles are seemingly getting their groove back. So they need to pad the win column to make sure they can at least try and get a wild card because it doesn't seem like they're going to win the division. So Cowboys travel to Atlanta to play the Falcons. The Falcons are a 2.5-point home favorite against the Cowboys team that just lost in a close one to the 49ers. Thought they may pull off that comeback, but didn't happen. So, Beej, this Cowboys defense is one of the worst defensive units that the boys have seen in a really, really long time. They're 29th overall in EPA per play allowed. They're 19th overall in success rate allowed. They're 32nd in passing yards per attempt. They are 26th in rushing yards per game. So they're not very efficient. They can't get anything on the ground. This ATL, the Atlanta defense, you can actually exploit them too. But the offense, they're firing hot. They just dropped 30 on a Bucs team who I think is actually better than Dallas. Now we'll see if guys like Micah Parsons come back. So that obviously changes everything. But the thing that we're circling here is, can this Dallas defense do anything? Anything. It seems like if they can do anything, get one or two key crucial stops and important moments of the game, then it gives their offense a fighting chance, but they can't even do that. So against the Falcons team who has a great 1-2 punch out of Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier, and then Kirk Cousins is continually getting better in the passing game with strong weapons like Drake London, Darnell Mooney, and then Kyle Pitts finally having a resurgence year. Do you think that the Cowboys can generate any sort of defensive production to set up their offense, or do you think might get a bit ugly? What are your thoughts?
I mean, they're just terrible on both sides of the ball. They rushed for 56 yards against the 49ers whole game.
That's bad.
It's not a half. It's not a quarter.
And I mean,
That's the whole
Rico
game.
Dowdle, he, was out with an illness at the last minute. Now, I mean, still, like, you got to do better than that. And
Dalvin
Rico
Cook is saving
Dowdle
the
is not
day.
a game breaker, even though he's technically the starter. He's not a game breaker, but got to do better.
There's just no explosive plays. How many attempts they
And
had?
Beach, I wanted to maybe save this, but in your opinion, because I have a thought on this, do you think Mike McCarthy is now coaching for his job?
Yes, especially because it's the Cowboys.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
of course he is.
I think if the Cowboys miss the playoffs this year, McCarthy's done. Plain and simple.
It needs to be. He needs to be gone.
Yeah.
But I've said this. I said it at the beginning of the season. They're going to go as far as CeeDee Lamb takes them, and it's really hard for one player to take a team to wins. So they can't stop anybody. I think the Falcons are going to run all over them. I think the Falcons will cover the 2.5 at home. There's nothing here that'll tell me otherwise from what the season has shown so far. I mean, they didn't lose as bad as they did to the Lions, pretty bad. But
yeah,
I really don't. I don't have anything on their side.
The projections have Falcons -3, so same thing as what Vegas has. But you're right. I think if this defense can't stop the Falcons, which seems probabilistically likely to happen given the pass play, and the offense, unless they are uber efficient and can generate scoring plays virtually every single drive, it seems like an uphill battle. It seems like a losing battle. And so the defense for Atlanta is nothing to scream about either. They're 23rd overall in EPA per play. They're 27th overall in success rate allowed. So they're very exploitable. They're also not generating any sort of pass rush. They're 30th overall in pass rushes, pressures generated on the defense, only averaging 4.7 quarterback pressures per game. Not good for the Falcons. So if you're a Cowboys fan, you're really hoping on not necessarily your defense stopping them, but your offense keeping up and potentially being efficient enough to win you this game. It could easily be a team with the ball last is the team that's going to win kind of scenario. So that was kind of how the Bucs game was last week. It almost felt like that as well. Thankfully, the Falcons defense prevailed, had some turnovers against Baker Mayfield, and we're hoping for that same performance against the Cowboys. But I do think that is one thing as a Falcons fan I'm worried about, not having enough defensive production against this Cowboys offense. Now, like you said, they're a little lean in terms of talent on the offensive side of the ball. They do have Ferguson back and healthy, but it's just so easy to key on CeeDee Lamb and kind of almost, put your sole focus in that. Now, teams do that, and he still goes off for 140 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's that good, but we'll see what gives in terms of these two defenses. So the winner of this game is going to be the defense that steps up, creates the most turnovers, and makes the most big plays, period.
I just think the Cowboys are way too one-dimensional. I think you can't win that way, especially mixed with the defense that is just anemic.
It is.
There's just,
it is
you can't,
bad.
You can't win. You can't win that way.
No. It's time for McCarthy to go. Okay, Beach. Hey, we got through it pretty quick. Let's go through some quick picks really quick. There's a couple other games that really excite us that we're going to talk about here. Off the rip, divisional games that have a little bit of implications. Now, Dolphins are nearly dead in the water, but you never really know. They could make a late season resurgence, but Dolphins travel to Buffalo, play the Bills. Bills are 6-point favorites at home. Do you like the Dolphins to keep this even remotely close, or do you think the Bills keep on trucking along and gutting teams?
I mean, it might not be a good job. They beat them by 21 earlier in the season in Miami. The Bills have won 5 of their 6 games by more than 6 points, which is the spread. So I will take the Bills -6.
Yeah, I mean this could be one of those things where the public bets on the Bills and the public wins a lot of money.
I don't know with Tua back again, they're gonna be like, oh, that's too much. The spread's too high because Tua is back or whatever. That just doesn't.
Now this is one of the biggest discrepancies in the model. Vegas sees 6, the model sees 10. Bills -10. So
that's insane.
Something is off. Either Well, who knows? Maybe there's a matchup discrepancy, but I'm with you. Going to Buffalo is going to be really, 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 really hard. The reason I can see the Dolphins covering or a backdoor cover is mainly because the Bills, the way that they play the game. I was watching the Seahawks game, and it was honestly kind of annoying, but they would squeeze the life out of the game, and they would just drain the clock. They had drives that went 8 minutes, 5 minutes, 9 minutes, almost 10 minutes. So it's like their one drive takes up nearly, like a fifth of the total game time. So they just really squeeze the life out of their opponents. They grind it out. That's obviously what you want from a football perspective, but as an opposing fan or somebody who wants a lot of offense, aka me, it's really tough to watch that kind of play. But Bills are just so good right now. They added weapons. Keon Coleman is finally resurging and finding a spot in this offense. It's really hard to find. We saw the problems that the Dolphins had without Tua. That's not necessarily something that'll be fixed with one quarterback. He'll fix some things, but not all of them. So I'm with you, Bills -6.
I will say, if the Dolphins have 4 explosive plays, like 40 yards or more, they keep it close. 1 per quarter. But if
It's
not,
possible.
Bills.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, I like that. Hey, how about Jameis Winston last week beating the Ravens?
That was awesome.
Dude's a dog. I've loved every single quote that has come out of that game up until this point.
Did you hear what he said?
I've heard like 10 quotes that are just like frameable.
My favorite is can't say the sky's the limit when there's people on the moon.
There was another one where he's talking to his guys in the huddle and he's like, yo, this is what we do. We play for the name that's on our helmet. Oh shit, we don't have logos on our helmet. You know what I mean? Yeah.
That's bad.
So, yeah, it's just good fun. It's good fun. I love Jameis. Anyway, this game is Browns +2 at home in the dog pound. Kind of surprising, but makes sense given the volatility of the Browns play. Chargers 1.5 point road favorite going into the dog pound. They're coming off of a really impressive win last week against the Saints. Beach, do you think Jameis has unlocked this offense? Do you think he can keep it going? And do you think he can cover and win outright at home in front of his home crowd against the Chargers?
Man, I hope so. Yeah, you said they're 2-point underdogs. I don't know how
they're
I missed this game,
underdogs.
but I was writing this. Yeah, no, give me the Browns.
Give me the Browns too. I mean, the model has us at a pick even. Now, here's my caveat with that: is like we only have one sample of Jameis, so we don't know like did he play to his ceiling last week. Also, the Ravens' pass defense is like second worst in the league. Chargers, a whole different ball game. They're really efficient on the defensive side of the ball. They're actually first overall in median EPA per play allowed. So really, really like good defense, especially in the underlying metrics. Their offense is fine. They're very mid, I would say. They don't operate quickly, so it could be a low scoring game. But we'll see. It kind of depends on like how well Jameis can operate the system. Do we see Jameis, a version of Jameis that we saw with the Bucs, where he's really, really prone to throwing a shit ton of interceptions, or has he cleaned that up a bit? And can we trust the Browns' underrated coaching staff to call a good game and beat the Chargers? I'm going with the latter. I love Jameis. I actually think this team is really good. We know how good the Browns defense can be, and I think that the Browns coaching staff can call a good game, and Jameis will lead them to the promised land.
Yeah, no, I agree. If Jameis throws like 3 turnovers, it'll be difficult because the Chargers will lead the clock, run the ball, be real slow, and that's the way the Chargers will win this game. But give me the Browns at home. Everyone's excited to see some more quotes come out of that man's mouth.
Absolutely. Okay, hey, next one, Thursday Night Football. Texans are 2-point underdogs going in to play the Jets, who only have 2 wins on the season. Aaron Rodgers looks dusted. The trade for Devontae Adams solved nothing. However, Jets playing at home in MetLife, 1.5-point favorites on Thursday Night Football. Texans did, in fact, lose Stephon Diggs. They're still without Nico Collins, so they will be very, very lean in the wide receiver core, but they'll have guys like Mechie step up. I think Robert Woods step up and others. So what's your reaction to that point spread? Do you think that the Jets should be favored? Are you taking the Texans to win outright? What's your thoughts here?
I think the Jets should be favored, especially at home. The Texans have a good record. Was it 6-2? I think, but they haven't looked like that's their record. I guess I would say, especially with all the injuries going on. So I think that the Texans are going to have to be able to have an efficient run game, which they normally do, but they're going to be kind of limited on the receivers now that they have their top two guys out. So we'll see. I think the Jets are getting some of their corners back. Also, they were without two of their top two of their top three corners last week. So I think the Jets are going to win. They're a 5-game losing streak. I mean, Aaron Rodgers might just quit football in the middle of the season if they lose like the rest of their game. So I think the Jets will win this one. I think they'll cover the 2.
I think the Jets rightfully are favored. My model actually has Texans -1, and that's not incorporating the loss of Diggs. So how much is Diggs worth? Is he worth 2 points? Probably not. Maybe you could justify that with Nico Collins out. But this game is going to probably be a lot closer than people expect. I see a lot of the public has already jumped on the Texans line early. Nearly 90% of the money on Texans as expected. And it's funny, the Patriots game, the Jets had 0 turnovers and they scored 20 plus points, but they still lost. So it's on their defense. And you know what? That's their fault. They fired Robert Saleh. The defense was never in question before they got rid of Robert Saleh. And now look at that. They're giving up 25 to the New England Patriots. And that was after Drake May went out of the game. So you talk about a franchise that really does themselves no favors. It's the Jets. They have all the pieces they need. They had everything. And then if they just let everything stabilize, they could have really had a good season. But no, they fired Saleh, and now they've dug their own grave. So I feel no remorse for them. I do think the Texans win because the vibes are low in New York. And the
vibes are low. Vibes are low.
Yeah. Okay, Beach, there's one more that you wanted to talk about. I also want to talk about this because you are heavy on a particular team here. Broncos go to the Ravens. Ravens are pissed off after their loss to their divisional opponent in the Browns. Ravens are 9-point favorites in a home game against the Broncos. Kind of fitting given the context, but you kind of seem to be a bit higher. The Broncos are now 5-3, looking pretty good, eyeing a potential chance in the playoffs. So, Beach, thoughts? You like the Broncos to cover. Let's hear why.
I do like the Broncos to cover, mostly because the spread is just really high. But for me, it's that every team can pass on this Ravens defense. And I do think that every game Bo Nix gets better. I know he just lit up the Panthers defense, but everyone does that also. But I do think that it's coming together for the Broncos, and their defense is also not a liability, is what I'll say. I mean, they're near the top of the pack in most statistics, I would say. Not that I have them in front of me, but I like points in this game. I like a lot of points in this game. I think we're going to get them. And with that, I think that it's not going to be all one-sided, and that's why I like the Broncos to cover this high spread. I do agree the narrative of the Ravens, listen to Jameis, just being fed up with it. But I think the Broncos are on the right track. They are 5-3, which is crazy. They have the same record as the Ravens. And the spread is almost 10 points. So I like the Broncos 100% to cover that 9.5. No doubt.
Yeah. The model is a 6-point. This is another rather big discrepancy, all things considered. The model is typically plus or minus 2 points, so we see a 3-point discrepancy between it and Vegas. But to my point, what I was making is I think the narrative here is going to be Ravens are pissed off. I also wanted to point out that where you get the Ravens, where you attack them is in the deep passing game. If they're really, really bad at defending the explosive pass game. And we saw that with Jameis. He stretched the field against the Ravens. You can absolutely take advantage of that and do so. How much of the Broncos are capable of doing that, I'm not entirely sure. The way that they've won games, aside from last week's game against the Panthers, who are one of the historical worst defenses in the entire league, but they dink and dunk, they run the football, and Bo Nix typically turns out quite a bit with his legs. How much of that will they be able to do against the Ravens? I'm not entirely sure. And so what we have to see from the Broncos is some aggressiveness in the deep passing game. We have to see one of these receivers outside of Cortland Sutton step up, whether it's Marvin Mims, Jordan Humphrey, Troy Franklin. We're going to see something. We're going to have to see somebody elevate their game to give a target downfield to Bo Nix. So that's what it's going to take for the Broncos to beat the Ravens. There's got to be somebody who stretches the field for them and makes big plays in the passing game. So I'm not bought in on that yet. So I do like the Ravens here. Not 9 points is a lot, so I'm not going to really comment on that either which way, but I do think the Ravens win. But if the Broncos want to prove themselves legitimate, prove it that they can take advantage of this bad secondary. So
it's going to have to be Cortland. We're talking to you, Cortland. It's going to have to be stretching the field vertically.
If you can hear us, if you're watching this.
Cortland is the name just doesn't even describe a football player. Cortland. It's a really weird name. But we're talking to you. You're going to have to stretch this defense because I don't think anyone else can.
No. We haven't seen anything else. But, okay, Beach, that's it for week 9. Halfway through the season. We obviously have another half of the regular season plus the playoff game, so still a lot to be excited about. Not too upset. But we will be back here next week to talk week 10 and everything that happened with week 9. So we appreciate you guys watching. We will be back here next week.